point on starting this meeting at 6:05 on February 17th. It's a meeting of the Climate Smart Communities Task Force for the Village of Lansing. So Gina and Rachel, I think that we are it tonight, but a lot of this is kind of almost pro forma. I just will let you know some new things that I've learned just today, and then we can look at the draft that you sent of the natural resources inventory, which I read through briefly a little bit, and to me that it looks fine. But anyway, so the pledge element 5 actions, the recycling bins, I still have not done that. I just keep postponing it and postponing it. We're such a small facility. I don't know. I need to do it and put it in the at least in the employee handbook for our policies. But getting into the employee handbook opens up a whole new can of worms, and I think I'm just deflecting that. So for the pledge element 6 actions, the comprehensive plan, those already exist. I'm going to remove that from this list for the next meeting. The documentation was in work. I have that ready, but I think I still need to submit it. I've got all of the requirements based upon the submission requirements, along with the page numbers and what they referred to. So I think it's ready to go. I might forward that to the both of you and let you look at it to see if there's anything hinky in it. I've been known to make a mistake or two, so I'll forward it on to you. The Unified Solar Permit. Now, my original note said that Mike and Carolyn felt that was too detailed. However, my first bit of news is that Mike completed his CEC training through NYSERDA this week, and I've got the email that documents that he did complete that. So we can submit that. And I think probably during that training, they probably went over the USP, and he's now changed his mind. He thinks that rather than reinventing the wheel, that we should probably look at using this. So I think that was always my feeling, is that yes, it's got a lot of details, but it actually forces each project, even no matter how small or how large, to think of all of the possible impacts to the environment, the village, et cetera. So I thought that it was, if you're going to do this, let's do it right. And so I think we might be going forward on that too. So that's 2 good pieces of news.
Yeah.
We'll still have to vote on that, but as a board of trustees, but that presentation can come out of this task force with Mike's endorsement. And I think we can probably convince Carolyn, because he was converting her today in our noon meeting today. So those are 2 good pieces of information. And I'm only going to report on the things I know about. The alternative fuel infrastructure, nothing on that. The natural resources inventory, I said TBD, but Rachel had presented the draft. You want to go over that draft?
Sure. And Rachel, yeah, I can go over it. It's not too complicated. The other thing,
no, it's not.
The other thing I wanted to say, obviously I'm cool to start working on this whenever you want to, but I also know that you're going to be recruiting a new person probably in the next few months. So if you're like, I want to do this, but I want to wait until we get that new person on. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't rushing ahead.
We want to go forward, and what the new person will do, that's supposing we find a new person, they will have a totally fresh perspective, because they might be looking at this through lenses that see something that we gloss right over because of the paradigm we will have from working on it. So we will proceed.
Great.
So yeah, I turned on sharing so you can share a screen and we can talk about. I found one error, but it's like big deal.
All right, yeah, and it definitely could have been. I use this document for different people who are interested, so sometimes I do make mistakes when I'm trying to transfer it over.
That's okay.
But the goal of this document is really to just go over what we expect to see in the NRI, but B, be a really easy thing that you could hand to someone, be like, this is what an NRI is going to look like for the town, in a way that you can express it. So here, there is the definition and purpose of an NRI. This is very similar to what you can find online. There is a big guide that came out of the Hudson Valley region that has like every single detail you can want on NRIs in it.
Right.
If you'd like me to forward that along, I will, but
maybe point me to, maybe send me a link to it. And
sure, yeah, I'll put it in the chat here, and then I'll try to follow up this email
Perfect.
with an email tonight or tomorrow morning.
That's good.
But yeah, it's a great document. It's very readable. They make it very approachable because they're trying to have it mass producible, but I won't say that it's short. But it's there are really there's lots of benefits to doing this, and especially in the CSC program, which it's not like we talk about it being 10 points, but the NRI is also a launching point for other actions, like a climate vulnerability assessment, hazard mitigation. I'm forgetting the full name of that one. Hazard risk mitigation. You know what I'm saying. There's other actions.
Hazard mitigation plan. Yes. The points are always the gravy in these efforts. From my standpoint, is that we are doing this to do the right thing, to set baselines for things. Points are the gravy. So,
and just like you said, this is a baseline. We're hoping this doesn't need to be updated as much as a greenhouse gas inventory, right? Because these things don't change that quickly, but with climate change, it could need to be updated.
If anything, they'll disappear, and that's not what we want. So we don't want to change for that reason. No.
But it does make a good understanding. So lots of benefits. And
what are our local treasures? What are the things that we have that basically constrain and allow for local development? So.
Oh wait, you know what? I'm showing the wrong one here. Hold on, let me stop sharing.
Okay.
Yeah, I was looking at it. I was like, I thought I'd made some changes.
And I was seeing some town things there. I don't remember seeing. Things.
I was like, this doesn't look like the right document I just made.
Bait and switch. I see what's going on here.
Yeah. Well, I'm loving it when communities are interested in the NRI. So I'm always willing to share information on it. But here, I have the right one up now. So, so this is for the Village of Lansing.
Okay.
And again, we're going to prepare this together. The more committee members are interested in taking on parts of this, the quicker it goes. But obviously, like you guys are doing a lot of changes, so we'll just have to factor that in. But a lot of this isn't, rewriting the wheel. You're going to have similar natural resources to the county. It's just like the specifics of, where are your wetlands, things like that are where we're going to need to spend time.
Right.
So I said 6 to 12 months. It could, who knows? We have another outbreak. Maybe we'll all be on our computers and it'll go quicker or slower. I just try to be honest.
I think that's a fair guesstimate. If it's sooner, it's sooner. Hey, that's great.
Exactly.
But that's kind of what I would expect. Because we are about to, we've actually already kicked off our budget process. We're going through that. Resources are being tied into that. We're going to have an election. We're trying to find candidates for trustee. There's some of that's going on. And so I think that's a good guesstimate. So that's fine.
Perfect. And then here is some public outreach ideas. This obviously, you want to let people know it's happening, but it's really more when the NRI is available. But you've done this kind of thing with documents, so nothing new here with the idea. But when we get to the outline, so most of these sections are what's really needed in an NRI.
Correct. Okay.
But if there is something that Lansing wants to highlight, like perhaps something special to Lansing that you think needs to be in this NRI, there's no rules that we can't include more. So, definitely if someone around really wants to dive deep into the history or architectural, landmarks in the town as part of the historic sites section, It's definitely possible. I think that this outline really does do a good job of covering all the things that I could think of, but each municipality is special, and I would definitely want to highlight that in this report. So that is kind of the place where I'll leave you thinking. If you think that this covers everything, we're good. If you or Lynn or Simon's like, no, there's another section that should be in here,
Right.
definitely just let me know.
Well, one thing that I learned recently, and what you just said triggered that thought, is Mike Scott was filling out an environmental assessment form, and from a state standpoint, if you check a certain box, it automatically pre-populates things. And something on the state side, when he checked this box, marked that we had architecturally sensitive or historically sensitive areas. And I said, Mike, I don't know of any historically sensitive areas. He said, oh, there are a couple of very small private cemeteries or graveyards in our village. So would that be something that it would be good to mark in here just so people are aware of it? Have you done that before?
It's 1,000% your decision with something like that on private land.
Okay.
I know that they're just across New York State, those private cemeteries are getting more attention, but it's like very much on the private scale, like landowners are enhancing them and turning them into places to visit. So I think that's it's a decision within the town. Is this something you want to highlight?
Something we can discuss down the road.
I think as long as you're not giving specific, well, I don't know if we'd have to see about giving specific locations and if we
right, because a lot of people don't want traffic to that. But the thing that there was a development project that was going to be within so many feet of one of these, and it just triggered something that I wasn't aware of. So that's just a discussion. That's the only thing I could think of beyond. But we have people in our village and community in general that probably have all sorts of things they want to put in here. So they may have suggestions that we will want to filter in and some that we probably want to filter out. That's the way our county is, I've noticed.
I think at the very least, it's worth including that there are those sites in Lansing, whether or not we get permission to say where they are. But considering that they do impact ideas about building and things like that, I think it is important to put in there because that is something to consider if you're using this to think ahead and make plans about the municipality's future. So
just be aware. Mm-hmm.
Can I mention a few things when you're done?
Yes, Gina.
Okay, so I know in my experience, when I wrote a watershed plan in Illinois, we were not allowed to put specific places where endangered animals. We could just sort of pick a general area because there actually are people who will go out and take the animals out of there or kill the plants or dig them up. So we were not allowed to do that. The other thing, a couple other things. One is that cemeteries often contain remnants of the way the land was before modern times. And it's in Illinois anyway, with prairie land is extremely valuable in terms of historical information about the plants that are native to that area. So that's a gold mine of information, really, the old cemetery.
Interesting. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I think Aldo Leopold used that as a place to find, prairie that was intact.
Oh, wow.
And the third thing that I wanted to mention was that Lynn had mentioned viewshed, like preserving the viewshed. And that's something that can be done in GIS. I don't know if you have ever done that, Rachel, but
I use GIS. I use GIS, but I haven't found a way of putting notations or creating a map of my own in there. We might have to ask the county to do that for us, but whatever. But
I could definitely help with that as well. Figuring out viewsheds. It just depends on where the critical points are that you want to keep and such. And these are all conversations that we would just have to have with people from the village of Lansing. So, if there's a certain overlook that people love, and we want to say everywhere that is visible from that overlook, that's definitely something that we can include.
Okay.
But like, this isn't a document that would say everything that's visible from the overlook needs to remain this way or something like that. Like,
Sure.
we're not making any
No,
policy in this document. It's
No,
just
no,
an
no.
inventory.
it's just an
but I-
inventory, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting what Dina said about the cemeteries. And I don't know as much about New York, but I know in Vermont, in a lot of the Northeast, in the 1800s, a lot of the forests were removed. And then at the end of the 1800s and beginning of 1900s, they were revegetated. And what we have now are considered old growth forests because to be an old growth forest, the median age of your trees need to be larger than 50% of like the median age expected. So like if you have trees that are expected to live 100 years old, more than half of them need to be 50 plus. And because that's kind of the expected age of trees in the Northeast, we have old growth forests, but they're actually not that old. So it is interesting. I don't know that much about it in the Northeast and what has been done to look into cemetery land, but
I think that New York, this area in New York, at least from what I understand from conversations within the county legislature over the last 2 to 3 years, we have some areas exactly like that were deforested and then repopulated or replanted. And there sounds like almost the exact same time period even.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, it was very like the Northeast was like that because it was during our agricultural phase, and then once the Midwest became popular, the agriculture left from the Northeast. But it's all those old stone walls that those are in the forest. Those are what tells us that it was not always forest.
it wasn't.
It was ag land at one point.
Right.
But yeah, no. It is really it is interesting. And that is, and like other cultural important things could go in here as well. Things that aren't even necessarily at a scale that needs to be reported on at the government level or something. It could just be, there's a diner in town that's been there for 50 plus years, and you guys feel like it deserves to be put in here as cultural importance. This is your document. So as long as it has the nuts and bolts that it needs, it can be what Lansing wants. So
then we can expand on top of that to whatever we want to have in there.
And I heard you say you're going to talk to others about this, which I say definitely go for it. Just be warned that people get really excited and get lots of ideas. So be prepared for that.
I've been in meetings where those ideas came up. So
but feel free to mark this paper up as much as you want and send it back to me with any notes.
Yeah. The thing I found was very small, so I'll do that. But I do want you to go ahead and get started on it. I guess the boilerplate part of it, to get started on that, and then most of our work will be reviewing that, of course, and then embellishing after that's done with input. So the one thing I did notice is that public outreach, having public outreach. What do you recommend is the best medium for that? It would be like having a Zoom meeting in this case, where we go through it and just take notes of ideas, or basically we could also have people put in the chat their idea, because it would have a name associated with it, and they could type in an idea, and then we would have a list at the end of it and use that. But any other suggestions?
Pre-COVID, I would have definitely said the library is a great place to advertise and hold a meeting like that. But I think you're right with having it on Zoom is probably the wisest option. You can also have some like an open, time for any comments, and like choose an email, like please send. You can even make up a special email for it so you don't get bombarded. Although it's a small town village, I don't think you're going to get bombarded with comments like they get for some of these big policies that they make.
You never know.
But yeah, I think having some sort of comment period is nice. Really, Lansing better. It gets people motivated and to come out. Maybe, at a summer barbecue or something, you want to have a conversation about it. It's really you have to get it out to the public, but you might know better than me the way that gets dancing people excited.
Well, if you think, if in the future, we're going to be discussing this for a while, obviously, when we get to that point, if we come up with any new ideas, just be sure and speak up and let us know of something you've heard of that worked really well.
And timing might also come into play if we're near any like fairs or climate events or big days. Maybe we could release some information together and get some shared publicity around it. But without knowing when exactly we're going to be done, it's a little hard to speculate around that.
Yeah, that's it. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but I was just, the public outreach part is the part of it's a blessing and a curse.
The last thing I would suggest is maybe sending it over to your high school or any like students that might be interested, student groups, because they're a great way to connect to, interested people, but also their parents and the community.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, we're having some success in other communities using interested students to help with CSC and CEC actions. So it's pretty exciting times.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, that's something to process. Okay, yeah, I will read through this a little slower this next pass, and then put in any revisions that I find, and maybe ideas, and we'll just kind of make it a working document. But go ahead and start. I shouldn't do anything that would prevent you from going ahead with your normal work on this.
No, and I'll probably start by like making a skeleton document and maybe working on some of those geospatial maps, because those are going to probably take a bit of time, and then it's just a lot of describing of what's going on in the map.
Right. So, okay, thank you. Gina, the clean energy planning, clean energy points estimator, I did not work any more on that. I apologize. Did you get a chance to chat with John about the street lights?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I told him that all I needed were total, like I needed the total number of lights and then the number that were converted, the percentage. And he said you have both kinds, Cobra head and decorative, which is good news.
Right.
You can get 900 points for that.
Okay.
But when I spoke with him, he was not at work. He said he would get me those figures Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, that's good enough. Yeah, he's the winter weather and spring thaw times are kind of hit and miss with John and his crew because of they've got to deal with water line breaks or plowing roads or salting roads, etc. So and he's got a big chunk of our budget cycle. He's got a big part of that. So that's about right. So that'll be good. We will get it soon now.
Okay. Do you want to look at my version of your points estimator?
Yes. Yeah. You should be able to share also if you need to.
Okay. So I went ahead and put completed for the energy code enforcement training because all we have to do is get that email. So that's our first batch of points.
Okay.
Looks like it's going to snowball. Like you're going to have a lot of actions coming up quickly. And perhaps if you had like an hour later on next week, after I get those figures from John, we could do like a batch of submissions. Like we could submit the benchmarking.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That'll be good. Yeah.
Okay. So the unified solar permit looks like that's going to green light, probably. We'll have that as a short-term goal.
Yeah, I think there'll probably be a little bit more discussion within the trustees, but once we've had that discussion, then I think probably at our next task force meeting, we should have enough information where it could come out of our task force that we should vote on that at the subsequent trustees meeting. So it maybe 1 month.
Okay, I would say short term. I would put, and this is totally up to you, but I would put anything up to 3 months or 3 or 4.
Yeah, definitely short term. Yeah.
Okay. Energy code enforcement training. That's great. That's done. And I saw that you did the benchmarking. We just have to submit that.
Right.
We have to have you share the account with read-only access with NYSERDA. Has that been done yet?
I guess not.
That's okay. That's something that we can do together. Like if we have like an hour, we can do a lot of stuff.
Yes, I
That should be
set it up.
something
I
we do.
think I set up read only for Jody and Mike within the village, but I didn't set anything up with NYSERDA. I didn't realize I needed to do that. So yeah, if you just show me how to do it properly. Now, the thing
Sure.
I did, since we're on that subject, the thing I noticed is that some of my data seems to be missing, and I don't know why. I've got to go back and check. When I tried to run reports, it was showing me that data was missing in some of the, I don't know if I set the date range incorrectly, but
Yeah, that is a quirk of that system, is that if you don't have parallel date ranges for like your 2 years, it
Right.
work. So,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so if you do January to December of 2020, you have to do January to December of 2021.
Right. Okay. So I was doing something wrong. It was the data was just saying that it was missing data. So I definitely put that data.
That's a
in. That was a
common,
lot of work.
it's a common
Okay, all right,
result. So
okay.
it's a quirk in the program.
I just have to refine that down to a template, so I just have to run it after that. So
Yep.
that's
Okay,
what I'm
and
working
so
on right now.
that's what, okay. And then when we meet later next week, we can also, talk more about it.
Okay.
So the LED streetlights are going to be short-term.
Okay.
So from my understanding, you went ahead and did the benchmarking, the advanced benchmarking, but not, but didn't, why isn't this, but didn't pass the resolution to do it. Is that correct?
We passed a resolution allowing me to input data into the Energy Star portfolio manager.
Okay, okay, maybe I can
Would that
take a look at that.
okay. All right.
That might
I'll have to go
serve.
back and find it. That was last year sometime.
Okay, that might, we might be able to submit both of those at one time.
And the advanced reporting is what I was working on now, trying to find a way of putting it up on our website. We're going to report it once a year. We input data once a year, halfway through the year. And then when the new data is in, then run a new report and put it up on our website. So that was my plan.
Great. I think that my putting community choice in short term is maybe a little premature.
It would be long-term right now. I think CCA might be a big task for the village,
Right.
unless some of the CCA managers, contractors or companies make it a lot easier.
Right.
So it's out there, but yeah, long term.
Yeah, we're having to, did I send you a link to
Yes.
the webinar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ithaca is working on that, and they're planning on bringing surrounding communities. So if some communities might choose to go alone or go on their own, but a lot of other communities in Tompkins County are planning on joining in with Ithaca. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to make it a shared service across the county.
Yep.
And at
Yep.
that point, if that works out well, we might join that, but I'm just not sure yet.
Okay. So we make that long term.
Right.
And so short term, we've got 1,600 points. I don't know how close you are to the climate smart certification. How is that? How are you in that?
Is it a minimum of bronze?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're still a ways out from that. I think we'll be getting closer pretty soon. It's like with this, it's going to kind of snowball all at once, but
Okay,
we're getting
okay.
closer.
Yeah. So with your long-term goals, you've definitely got enough potential points to get the highest level of grants, but
Okay, we've got to get those done.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So-
I think but like a lot of the points that you're going to get, like the code enforcement training and the LED streetlights, those all count for CSC as well.
Both. Yeah, they count for both. Yes.
Yeah. So I think you are probably pretty close.
I hope so. Yeah. But then we have to wait for the next review cycle. Right.
Yeah. But
Is
they
that still
come
twice a
fairly
year?
often. No,
Is it
I think
twice a year?
they're now 3 or 4 times a year.
Oh, okay. All right. Quarterly.
Yeah, they
Good.
haven't. I think the latest one they've announced out to is maybe in June, but then they'll just announce another round following
Okay.
that.
Okay. All right. Good.
So it looks like, yeah, you'll probably get a whole lot of points at one time, because other than this unified solar permit, these other actions are mostly done. Right, we just
Yes.
submit all the paperwork, so that will give you 1,400 points in the program, which is almost halfway to that 3,000 point
Okay. All right.
threshold for the $10,000 grant, which is really nice.
And this will be our first year that if I get any requests from DPW department for light duty vehicles, that I'll ask that we research an EV for those.
Yeah,
So
I did speak a little bit with John about that today. He was pie in the sky, at least for now.
mhm. Yeah, he does, the heavy duty trucks are not there yet. They're not going to be there for a little while, but I think if we wanted to get some DPW pickups, like a new pickup, F-150 style or something, that those might be available. It just depends on the supply now.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
supply stream is just messed up, but it's at least going to be a question within our budget discussion. You're requesting vehicles, or any of those. Do we have any possibility of getting an electric vehicle for any of those vehicles, even small mowers and stuff? So, but we're slowly getting to, as long as we can get a good supply, an affordable supply of electric vehicles for our fleets, it's like less than 10 total. Then we'll start that.
Okay, so
That's great. Thank you, Gina.
you're welcome. Just let me know, next week when you have like an hour block of time that we can.
Okay.
In.
I will, after this meeting, I'll look at my calendar and see if there's something that looks. I haven't even looked at next week's schedule yet, because I didn't want to get depressed. Let it be a surprise. Just never know.
Just maybe give me 1 or 2 or 3 options.
Yes. Yeah. I'll say these days, these afternoons, whatever. Yeah, I'll do that.
Terrific. I look forward to getting those done. That's really exciting to get all that done in time.
Yeah. The benchmarking, I was just going to tell you, I was having problems with the report, which we can kind of talk about at that meeting again. I'll continue to try to see if I can work out the issues and see if you've got any suggestions on how to make it better. But do be sure to send me, we'll work on me giving NYSERDA readability or reading rights to the data also. So that probably won't take very long, because it's just a one screen thing and submit. And so the energy code, Mike has completed that. I've got the email. And did you get a copy of that yet? Oh, you're on mute, Gina.
Yeah, I think there's some information I could glean from it, but to tell you the truth, if I could just get John to give me like 4 numbers,
Oh no, I'm talking about the energy code training.
Oh, right. Submit that in 5 minutes.
Okay, so do I need to forward that email to you that Mike has sent to me? I
would appreciate that, because I didn't get a copy, but you will need to actually submit the email, and I can walk you through that.
Okay, all right. Well, then I'll just keep it here and show it to you. And the unified solar permit, I told you about that. I think it makes more sense to use something that's already there. So I'm happy that I didn't make that decision. That was my feeling, but Mike, after his training sessions, came back with a changed mind. And he said, I don't have to fill out the form. What do I care if it's longer?
Right.
So, well, that's
Good.
true. But it's from my perspective, it makes the requestor really think about what they're doing and why and how. So I think it's a good thing.
And
Plus,
did I send you all the steps to do that, to the submit the unified solar permit. Did I send you that? I don't remember. I think.
I'm not sure.
But we could talk about that at our meeting too.
Okay. If you have a day or an afternoon when you're not doing anything and you want to send me another copy, you can do that.
Sure, sure.
But we can just kind of use that one meeting to get a lot of this wrapped up if you like.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
that's just better because we can verify that it's done and done correctly. And obviously, my last note here for today was the CSC actions, and this is leading up to a lot of the CSC actions, Rachel. So we'll just have to turn around and submit to the CSC in the same way, slightly but different format, possibly, but
Absolutely.
we
And
can
when
do that
you're
too.
ready to do that, we can do just like you're doing with Gina, sit down,
Okay.
have a meeting to make sure you're comfortable. But honestly, you'll find that the documentation required for a lot of these actions is just the notice that you got the approval in CEC. Like that is
Right.
enough for the DEC to know that you've done this. But
Okay.
yeah, and the PDF is supposed to really clearly lay out what you need to provide. So it shouldn't be too difficult,
Right.
but even still, definitely willing to sit down. I know sometimes it's just nice. Like I personally will make my mom sit down and do some form, like just sit next to me when I do some like really complicated forms. And I'm like, I just need the moral support. All right. Like I
Yeah.
just need you there.
Yeah.
If in
Otherwise,
case.
it's just a morass of fields that got to be done.
Yeah. So
No,
definitely I'm available for the support, but it makes a little sense that you might want to do the CEC stuff first and then we can move over
Okay.
to yes.
And then I will attempt to submit the CSC. If there are any that I have issues with or problems with, I'll let you know and we can work on the ones that didn't get submitted properly. So, okay. And that's all I had for tonight. Do either of you have anything else to discuss?
I don't think so.
Okay.
At
Well,
the
I will let you know, Gina. I'll send out an email here in just a little bit that gives you some time frames for next week, and we'll just plan on an hour or so to get things wrapped up, get as far as we can anyway. And
Great.
sometimes if
Perfect.
you just point me in the right directions and start my feet moving, I can finish it up. But we want to be sure we get as much done as possible.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you both. And I will keep in touch, and both of you keep in touch if you need anything from me. I do the best I can. I will be somewhat harried for the next month as we go through our budget process. And since we're also at the same time looking for trustee candidates and getting them ready for elections, blah, blah, blah. I could be kind of busy and slow responding, but if I don't respond when you need, just call me then. Yell at
And
me or
if
something.
there's not like a ton of new things and you need to skip next month's standard meeting and just maybe have one-offs with us or email exchange. I know
Okay.
with the budgeting, it can be a really busy time.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy month. Yeah, we'll see. We're making good progress in these things. I still like to keep in touch just because it makes me think about, okay, here's where we are, there's where we need to be, and what do we need to do to get there. So it just keeps me on track too. And then I can help everyone else do what they need to do. So I appreciate it from you both, and I hope you have a good evening.
Thanks.
Have a good
Good
one.
night, Rachel. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.